In the last stream, we were working on upgrading our blood magic altar and implementing the well of suffering underneath the altar to allow us to generate enough life points per tick to acquire our first creative fluid tank, which we now have. And at the end of the last stream, we left a second tank in the blood altar, and again between streams that has been transformed into yet another creative fluid tank. So we now have two of these ready for us to use, and going forward we can also use our book o enchanting trinket that we now have. We do in fact have quite a few trinkets as well now. I've been getting these passively just as we move around and do different things, but we now have a second creative fluid tank, and we also have the ability to make really as many more creative fluid tanks as we like, because we still have unlimited witches from our witch spawner, and we still have the ability to use those witches with the Well of Suffering to create unlimited life points to get more creative fluid tanks. For the time being, I've just left my Master Blood Orb in the Blood Altar, so the Well of Suffering will continue to work, but kind of just self-feed back into the Blood Orb, so we don't get any nausea or anything during today's stream. Real quick, let me check some of these new trinkets here. So, Book o Enchanting says no bookshelves needed for enchanting. That could be quite useful. Bigfoot was the one we were using previously. It scares baby monsters away from you. I was mostly using that for the Cursed Earth spawner that we had previously, because occasionally baby monsters could make their way out of the 1-block high gap that we left, and so using this kind of kept them in the spawner. We also have Firemind. Enemies targeting you will burn on fire. Creepers targeting you will not spawn an explosion. Ice Shard provides you with Frostwalker, and then the rest of these I think we've seen already, although I might re-equip Rock Candy because I do quite like the extra movement speed that we get from having that equipped. But the first thing that I really want to do in today's stream is utilize one of these creative fluid tanks to get us unlimited diesel. Right now the diesel generator is off, and it has been for a little while. We can turn it on, we do have a backlog of diesel, but over time, if I was to leave it on, we would run out of diesel. I think the problem right now is that we don't have like enough fermenters or squeezers. I think we need more than one of each of these potentially to keep this going, and maybe even more garden cloches on either side. But either way, now that we have the creative tank, what we should be able to do is basically go ahead and just put this down like so, at which point I think it's possible we could fill this up this way. Although it looks like maybe that's not the case. I was hoping that the diesel would go into the tank, although it looks like the diesel is just being deleted. So I'm going to try something different then real quick. Let me try getting a different tank, like the seared tank here, and then if we pull out of that tank with a bucket, we can maybe use that bucket to apply the diesel to the creative fluid tank. I don't think you can pull directly out of here, although actually I think I'm completely incorrect. If I do this, yes, that way we do get a bucket, and then we can do this, and there we go. Now we have an infinite amount of biodiesel. So now if we take this and put it here and do the same thing again like that, and then using our pipe's wrench, we can set that to extract like so. At that point we don't need this cable anymore. We can get rid of that, and we should be able to turn this on, and basically this should just run forever. This should now have a constant never-ending supply of diesel, and if we really wanted to, we could add, you know, a second, third, fourth, 10th, 100th diesel generator to this setup, and the creative fluid tank will just continue to provide for all of them. The only bottleneck then could become the actual fluid pipe itself, which right now can only transfer 50 millibuckets per tick, but I'm fairly certain that at least for the time being, and probably for the first few diesel generators, that even this won't need an upgrade. But of course, if we wanted to, we could add an upgrade to this to allow it to move diesel even faster to even more diesel generators should we need them. Now that we have this though, the next problem that arises is one of power transfer, and that's one of the first things that I want to work on in today's stream, because up until now, for power transfer, we've mostly been using these LV wire coils, relays, and connectors to move all of our power from the water wheels and from the diesel generator to all of the different things that need power around the base. And whilst they do work, our current system is bottlenecked because you can only input or output 256 redstone flux per tick per one of these LV connectors. And the second problem with this setup is that people have been complaining for the longest time about this wire here that I keep walking into. This is horrific, by the way. I do readily and freely admit that I do not like this setup that we have, but hopefully in today's stream we can get rid of that entirely, because we do have a mod installed called Flux Networks, and this mod is super cool in that it's going to allow us to wirelessly transfer power from our diesel generator, and if we want to, from our water wheels, although we probably don't really need it, around to all of the other items in the base, including our refined storage system, which I do also want to work on in today's stream, and it's quite possible that over the course of the next couple of streams, the refined storage system starts to use a lot more redstone flux. It's only using 17 FE per tick right now, but that could go up quite a bit in the coming episodes. But yeah, we can move power to basically all of the stuff in our base wirelessly. So to get started with Flux Networks, we first need to get some flux dust, because basically everything in this mod requires flux dust in some way, shape, or form. Most of the items require flux cores, which are obsidian, eyes of ender, and flux dust. So flux dust, as it says on the tooltip here, can be obtained by compressing redstone dust with bedrock and obsidian. If we click through, there are two ways you can make it in this mod pack. There is the mixing method from create, and then there is the flux network method, which is placing a block of obsidian one block above bedrock, and then throwing the redstone dust under the obsidian. You can then left click the obsidian, it will slam down, and it will produce flux dust. This is the method we're going to use simply because it's significantly faster, because it allows you to do, if you want, multiple stacks of redstone at a time. So real quick, let me get another elevator. Between streams, I have gone ahead and dug out a shaft all the way down to bedrock. And so if we do this and this, I've also put some tinted glass here to prevent the witches from attacking me. But if we get rid of this, I believe we have the fall damage trinket. We do, so we don't take any fall damage, which is fantastic. Thankfully, in this mod pack, the elevators have no limits, so you can have an elevator that's as far away as you like, and they will still work. So, for example, if I put an elevator here, I can then jump, and it takes me all the way back up to our blood altar, which is fantastic. I would like to put a few slabs down, like so, just to make it a little easier for us to get up and down onto the elevator. And basically, if we quickly grab some obsidian, one piece will do, we can head down to bedrock. You want to place the obsidian one block above bedrock like this. You can then put as much redstone as you like under here. You can put one down, you could put, 64 stacks down, but as soon as you got all your redstone underneath, you then just simply left click on the obsidian, and boom, it turns every single piece of redstone into flux dust. Now that we have the flux dust, that should, I think, almost be everything that we need to get a basic flux network setup up and running. So if I'm not mistaken, I think all you really need to begin transferring power is a flux plug and a flux point. The flux plug receives energy from adjacent blocks, adding energy to your flux network, and the flux point provides energy to adjacent blocks, removing it from your flux network. So you put the flux plugs onto your blocks that generate power, and you put your flux points onto blocks that you want to give that power to. So to make, and they're both made in the same way, basically. They're both 4 flux cores. The points require a block of redstone. The plugs require a flux block, which is more flux cores and more flux dust, but essentially they're exactly the same. This does require a fair few Eye of Enders. Right now we have 282 Ender Pearls, but we only have the 1 Blaze Powder. We can craft up 2 more there, and if I'm not mistaken, we do have quite a bit of Blazing Blood over here, and I'm fairly certain that if we take our gold rodcast and do something like this, we should be able to pull that Blazing Blood out into Blaze Rod form. And we can leave this turned on for now because we're going to get quite a few Blaze Rods before we run out of Blazing Blood. Okay, so 26 should be enough there. We'll go ahead and craft like half of those down into Blaze Rods, at which point we should then be able to go ahead and craft up quite a few Eyes of Ender. I'm going to go with the full 29 for now, just so we don't have to keep manually crafting those over and over again. And so once we have the Eyes of Ender, we should be able to make quite a few of these flux cores. Of course, right now, all of our obsidian is downstairs. One thing we should do, or should look to do at least, is we should look to get an external storage on this, much like we've done with our storage drawers upstairs, to allow us to access that obsidian without having to actually manually go downstairs every single time we need more. For now, we'll go ahead and make like 32 of these flux cores. We're almost certainly going to need more, but I think that's probably a good starting point. And then from there, we should hopefully be able to make 1 flux block, which is going to allow us to make 1 flux plug. And then after that, we can also go ahead and make 1 flux point. And with those, what we should be able to do is take our flux plug and place that down onto our diesel generator. For now, I'm going to go ahead and break one of these connectors, hopefully without dying, if we do this. We can also, if we'd like, and we might as well, we can disconnect some of these as well here, because these are no longer required. In fact, we can probably take down the fermenter, the squeezer, and the refinery as well, because we're not going to need any of these going forward now that we have an unlimited amount of diesel. But what we can do is we can place our flux plug onto the diesel generator, like so, specifically onto the bit that produces power, although it looks like that actually isn't connecting, which is interesting. I really thought I'd be able to just connect to that. It might not. What we might have to do is kind of send the power from the diesel generator up into the LV capacitor here. This, again, is essentially just an energy storage cube. And then from there, we can probably put our flux plug on that and then use that to pull the power through, which I think is fine. It gives us a bit of a buffer as well in the actual LV capacitor itself. In here, the first thing we have to do is create a network in the top right. We'll go ahead and leave ours as the default here. It's called GamingOnCaffeine's network. You then do need to give it a password, although I don't know if you ever really need the password, so long as you're the person using your network. I'm just going to make mine Isaac, and we'll make this like yellow, create, and then you'll see that other people on here have also made their networks. From there, we need to make sure that we select a network, so we can click at the top, and then we want to scroll down to GamingOnCaffeine's network and click. You'll see it didn't ask me for the password. I think the password's really just if anybody else wants to use it. Once that is done, we can do the exact same thing over with the flux point. Again, this is where the power is going to come in. So here, let's go ahead and disconnect this horrible wire and also this horrible wire. And then I think what I might do here is either place the flux point on the bottom or on the back. The bottom is already in use, so I think what we'll try and do here is put this around on the back of the controller just so it's not in the way. Once that's down, again, right-click, select the network, scroll down to GamingOnCaffeine's network, click on that, and at that point, you'll see that it's working. It's using 17 redstone flux per tick and sending that to here, and it's pulling that directly from the diesel generator. And that's it. That's wireless power. So now going forward, anytime we want to give a new machine, a new block, or new anything some redstone flux, all we need to do is make a new flux point and put that flux point down directly onto that device. Pretty cool. Now, before we move away from the Flux Networks mod, there is one more thing I'd like to make, and that is the Flux controller, because as the tooltip suggests here, this can enable wireless charging on your Flux network, and that is going to be super useful for our Jetpack. Right now, if you want to charge our Jetpack, we have to come over to our charging station. It currently has 21 million redstone flux in it. If we put it in here, you can't quite see the power like actively, but if we leave it there a second and then take it out, it has still 21 million redstone flux in it. So it's fairly slow, this charger. I don't actually know the exact speed that this is charging at, but it's not quick. So hopefully, what we should be able to do here is we need 5 more flux blocks, which is definitely going to be more flux cores than we have, so I'll make a few more of those. Once we have 5 flux blocks, we should then be able to very easily just shift-click in the flux controller. Good stuff. At which point, you can put this down basically anywhere. I don't really think it matters where this goes. For now, I'll just stick it over here in the back corner. We then need to, just like with the plugs and the points, select our network. We'll go with GamingOnCaffeine's network. And then here, there is a tab at the top for wireless charging. If we click on that, we can then select what we want to charge wirelessly. The options are armor slots, curio slots, our main inventory, which is disabled. You can't charge your main inventory. I think that's a config option. Your hotbar slots, your offhand or your main hand. We want to charge our armor slots. That's where our jetpack is. And we want to make sure that we toggle enable wireless, apply. And then we should see that slowly but surely our jetpack is charging. So I think the trouble here is that we might be limited. Yeah, so we're limited here by how fast the LV capacitor can move power from the diesel generator to the flux plug. I think we can rectify this if we get some energy pipes from the pipes mod. I think these are a lot better at moving energy than immersive engineering is. There are higher tiers of capacitor we could make, but I think that if we instead kind of get rid of this, and get rid of this, and then we do something like that, really, that can't connect. So I think we're going to have to go ahead and make the higher tier capacitor here, because this just isn't working. Like these don't connect, which I really thought they would. And the flux plug itself cannot directly connect to the diesel generator. So I do think that, real quick, let's replace down the LV capacitor, because otherwise our refined storage system is not going to have any power whatsoever. So we'll do this, and we'll do this. These do remember their previous configuration whenever you break them and replace them. Back over here, we should have everything it takes, I think, to make another LV capacitor. To upgrade that to an MV capacitor, it's just some electrum and some redstone blocks. The redstone blocks we can make. The electrum we might actually have already over in here. We do. We have exactly 1 ingot worth of electrum. Do we have our ingot cast? We do indeed. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and drop that down right about there. Extract that out. And then once we have that, the HV capacitor is also pretty easy, actually. It's steel, aluminum, lead, and then more treated wood and redstone. That all seems fairly doable. As long as we have enough treated wood here, I think we should be good to go. So MV capacitor, and then finally, actually, I don't even know why I'm making all of these, because I'm a fool. You don't need to make the previous tier to make the next tier, which is where I'm going wrong now. I thought you had to make all of them. You don't. You can just jump in straight at the highest tier, like so. And once you have that, let's head on over. Let's get rid of all 3 of these. And then if we place down the HV capacitor, I think the HV capacitor can transfer and receive, I believe, 4,096 redstone flux per tick, which is the exact same amount of redstone flux per tick that the diesel generator produces. So if we go ahead and put that down, we then need to change the top. You'll see in the top left there, it says that the top side is set to input. So I believe if we get an engineer's hammer, we should be able to right-click the top there, setting it to output, and we also need to make sure the bottom is set to input, which I don't think it is by default. Much like we did with our first LV capacitor, I'm fairly certain that we can just do this, make sure the bottom there is set to input, pick it up, it retains its configuration, place it down like so, and then we should see this now, yeah, is inputting 4,096 redstone flux per tick, and if we look at our jetpack, you'll see that it's now charging substantially faster, even whilst we're using it, right? Our jetpack uses 880 redstone flux per tick, but because we're generating 4,090 redstone flux per tick, it will always, going forward, be completely full. Twitch chat is reminding me that with the immersive engineering machines, much like with the fluid outlets that we're using for our obsidian, if you shift right click with the hammer, you can change the input and output of the opposite side of the cube. So you'll see in the top left there, it says facing side output. If I hold shift, it says opposite side input. So that opposite side is the bottom of the block. So you don't have to do what I just did, where you pick it up, put it down, and then change the bottom and then move it again. You can just shift right click from the top of the block and that will change the bottom. Likewise, if you shift right click here, it'll change this side over here, and you get the idea. It'll change the opposite side if you shift right click as opposed to just regular right clicking. Now that that's done, one of the other things that I've wanted to work on for quite some time now is a wireless crafting grid. There is a quest for it here. The wireless crafting grid is basically this crafting grid, but we can carry it around and use it anywhere in our base, meaning that we don't have to keep coming back to stand here at this crafting grid every time that we want to get an item out or every time that we want to try and craft something new, which should hopefully save us a bunch of time and make it a lot easier for us to do work elsewhere in the base. So to make the wireless crafting grid, we do first have to make the crafting remote from the Simple Storage Networks mod. This is also something we probably should have made back when we had a Simple Storage Network. This is essentially the same thing, but it allows you to wirelessly access your Simple Storage Network. Now, I do think we should have almost everything to make this, apart from the sea lanterns, and also by the looks of it, apart from the ender chests. The ender chests, super easy to do. The sea lanterns also shouldn't be too difficult for us here. To make a sea lantern, we need 5 prismarine crystals and 4 prismarine shards. The prismarine shards we can get by dropping nether quartz into water, and the prismarine crystals we can get by dropping lapis into water. So if we take a stack of lapis, and if we also take a stack of nether quartz, we do have quite a lot of both of those, we can also go ahead and grab a bucket. We can grab some water from our sink. For the time being, we can just put that water right down there. We can do a stack of lapis and a stack of nether quartz. And there we go. We get a stack of prismarine crystals and a stack of prismarine shards, at which point we should be very easily able to make 4 sea lanterns. And then from there, the crafting remote. Now, in order to upgrade that to a wireless crafting grid, We need 6 quartz enriched iron, 1 ender pearl, and 1 advanced processor. The only thing we're missing there is the advanced processor. We should have everything we need to make that from the last time we were working on refined storage. Thankfully, our emerald furnace is still super fast, and so back over here, we can drop that in the system, and boom, we have a wireless crafting grid. And I believe the way that we connect this wireless crafting grid specifically to our refined storage network is by shift right-clicking on the controller. This is now bound to our controller. You'll see the coordinates are there at the bottom. Now, if we wanted to, we could come over here. We could go to the wireless charging tab, and we could go ahead and wirelessly charge our curio slots. I believe if I do that and hit apply, we can then place the wireless crafting grid over in the head slot here, at which point I think it should start to charge wirelessly. There we go. It is wirelessly charging. Perfect. And then from there, if we want to actually use it, by the way, normally if you don't want to put it in that slot, you can hold it and you can just right click. Right now, it says there's no wireless transmitter in range. That is because in order for this to actually work, we need one of these guys, the wireless transmitter. Thankfully, the quest does give us one of those for free, which is fantastic. All you have to do with this is place it down on either a refined storage cable or on the controller directly. So if we wanted to, we could place it down like that. We should see that turn blue any second now once it starts receiving power, and then we should be able to actually use it by right-clicking with the wireless crafting grid. I really thought this would work here. Like, it looks like it's connected. I figured that should work, but for whatever reason, it's not. That's fine. I think if you place it down on a normal cable, this, of course, is not a normal cable. That's an external storage. If I did this, I believe that would work. Oh, it also doesn't work. Weird. That normally works. I'm not quite sure why that's not working. What should definitely work, though, is if we do this. There we go. Now it's actually blue, which means it is actively working. And so if we right-click our wireless crafting grid, we can now see that we have full access to all of the items in all of our disks and in all of the devices connected by external storages anywhere within a 16-block radius of the wireless transmitter. Now, 16 blocks is not massive. If we go like all the way over here, we probably are out of range. We are, which is not ideal because ideally, we'd be able to go down to our lower level, be over here and still access the system to get like new runes or whatever it is we want to work with. So for that, thankfully, refined storage does add range upgrades. And the quest here is very generous in that we only have to make 1 and it will give us 3 more. You can only put 4 range upgrades into any one wireless transmitter, although normally you can put down multiple wireless transmitters. That doesn't seem like it's going to work, at least not in this version of this mod pack, because for whatever reason it's not letting us put down the wireless transmitters on cables, which it normally does do. But normally you can put these down like throughout the base. You can kind of dot them around like little access points, and then you can use those to extend your range, or you can use range upgrades. The range upgrades are made with quartz-enriched iron, ender pearls, and an upgrade. The upgrade does require more improved processors. Again, we only need the 1. We'll get 3 more just for crafting that 1 as a quest reward. So once again, into the emerald furnace. Upgrade. And range upgrade. We'll claim the quest reward. And then I believe each one of these gives you an extra 16 blocks. It gives you an extra 8. So we go from 16 to 24, to 32, to 40, to 48. So 48 is not infinite range, but I am fairly certain that it is basically the entirety of our base covered. Like if we go stand over in this back corner, if we even fly up to the roof here, we can still access the system. If we go down to our lower level and we run over into this back corner, we can still access it. If we go over to here, still accessible. Here is still accessible. And over here is out of range. So you'd have to go quite far to not be able to use it. And I don't see our base getting that big that fast. And even if it does, I'm fairly certain, also I'm pretty sure we can't use it down here. Yeah, it's way too far away. But even if it does, there is also the next quest, which is for the creative wireless transmitter, which is a new item to me. It looks like it's from the creative wireless transmitter mod, like it's a mod specifically for this. But I believe if you get this, you can then access your system anywhere. Like I'm assuming, I've not played with this, but the idea sounds like infinite range across dimensions, doesn't require power, and as a reward for this, you actually get a creative controller for refined storage as well, which would eliminate the need to power this at all. It would just power itself because it's a creative item, which would be super nice to have. Unfortunately, in order to get this, we do need an elytra, and to get an elytra, we do have to go through to the Nether, and we're probably not going to get to the Nether in today's episode, although it is something we are going to have to work on sooner rather than later, because it's kind of a key part of the progression of this pack. The way that we move forward here, under the factory quest line, we have to go ahead and make a crusher, then graphite electrodes, an arc furnace. Once we have an arc furnace, we can then begin smelting sand into endstone, and then we can use that endstone to make end portal frame. And then once we have end portal frame, we can then go through to the end, fight the end dragon, and begin working our way down this quest line here through the Twilight Forest, and then down into some of the creative quests as well. Either way, those are problems for future Isaac. The next thing that I'd like to work on in today's stream is kind of working a bit more down through this refined storage quest line. Specifically, I'd like to work a little bit on these crafters down here, because right now our refined storage system isn't able to do any crafting on its own. And going forward, if we're going to make some of these creative items, we're going to have to do quite a bit of crafting. Things like the infinite storage part here are made with 3 1048M storage parts, which in turn are made with 262M storage parts. And then you get the idea, it goes down and down and down. It's a lot of crafting. To make this happen, you have to craft so many of these 1K storage parts, which requires so much quartz enriched iron, so much glass, so much silicon. It would be a lot of manual crafting if we wanted to do that on our own. Thankfully, refined storage has the ability to auto-craft items for you if you teach the system how to craft those items. Now, in order to teach the system how to craft items, we first need a pattern grid and a crafter. So the pattern grid, we'll go ahead and bookmark. We'll also go ahead and bookmark the crafter here as well, so they should appear in the top left. For this, the pattern grid requires a grid with a pattern and an advanced processor. It looks like for a lot of these, we're going to require more processors. And so I think what I'm going to do real quick is just kind of bulk craft a couple of these processors. And once we actually get auto crafting up and running, the first thing that I will almost certainly do is teach my system how to craft these processors so that going forward, we can expand our refined storage system to craft more stuff without having to manually craft the things that are going to allow us to auto craft automatically in the future, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make like 16 of each of these. We do have 48 processors ready to go. So if I make 16 basic, 16 improved, and 14 advanced, it looks like we run out of silicon, which is completely fine. We do have nether quartz here. We can smelt more of that nether quartz down into silicon. Speaking of smelting, I might take a quick detour here, because right now we have an emerald furnace from the iron furnaces mod, and there are better furnaces we can get. First of all, there's the obsidian furnace. I also believe the netherite furnace is faster as well, but if we want to go to the extremes, the best furnace in this mod, and I believe in this mod pack, is the rainbow furnace. And the rainbow furnace, I don't think, is going to be too difficult for us to get. To make it, you need 1 rainbow core, and you need 8 rainbow plating. The rainbow plating, you get 8 when you craft it, is made with an iron furnace, a gold furnace, a diamond furnace, an emerald furnace, an obsidian furnace, and a crystal furnace. And then the rainbow core requires 2 netherite furnaces with 1 each of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and magenta stained glass. So if we take, actually real quick, I don't know how much glass we have. We've got 26,000 glass, of course, we're fine. If we go ahead and take this, I think we should be able to make that rainbow furnace happen. And if my memory is correct, I'm pretty sure the rainbow furnace is insanely fast. So we'll start out with the rainbow plating, because I think this is the easiest. Now, in order to get the next tier of furnace, you do have to have the previous tier of furnace. And so we're going to have to start by making 6 iron furnaces, and then we can upgrade 5 of those to gold, 4 of those to diamond, 3 of those to emerald, 2 of those to obsidian, and 1 of those to crystal. Although we can cut that back by 1 because we do already have 1 emerald furnace. So basically, we need to make 5 iron furnaces, which of course does require 5 regular furnaces initially. Once we have the 5 iron furnaces, we can then upgrade a few of those, aka 4 of them, to gold. Once we have 4 gold, we can upgrade 3 of those to diamond. Then we can upgrade all 3 of those to emerald, because we already have our emerald here. Actually, no, we want to keep 1 diamond, and we want to take 2 more emerald. Almost made a mistake there. We then want to keep that 1 emerald and upgrade the other 2 to obsidian. This is where those blaze rods from earlier come in handy. And then we want to take that 1 obsidian. Oh, I'm a fool. I thought you'd need obsidian to make the crystal furnace, but it looks like you don't. So we made an unnecessary furnace there, but that is fine. It shouldn't take us 2 seconds here to make another diamond furnace that we can then upgrade to crystal. And then at that point, I think we have everything for the plating here. We do. I think this is not shift clicking in because it might have an upgrade in it. Oh, no, it doesn't. It might just be because we've maybe configured the inputs and outputs potentially. But I think if I put that in manually, that does make the rainbow plating. And so now, the slightly harder part is the rainbow core here. So the rainbow core does require 2 netherite furnaces, which do require obsidian furnaces. So actually, never mind. The obsidian furnace that we made earlier was totally made on purpose because we definitely needed it. And I definitely didn't make a mistake at all. Again, thankfully, we've got quite a lot of all of these resources here, so getting another obsidian furnace is going to be super easy for us. From there, in order to upgrade those obsidian furnaces to netherite furnaces, we're going to need 4 netherite per furnace with some magma creams, some obsidian, and some soul soil. The soul soil we have, the magma creams we should, I think, fairly easily be able to make. We should have quite a lot of slime, and we can, of course, get yet more blaze powder, although once again we are out, so we are going to have to get even more from our smeltery here. While we wait for that, over here, we've got a few stacks of ancient debris, and if I'm not mistaken, we should be able to smelt that up. We can, for now, use one of these obsidian furnaces here, and if we wanted to, we could even put in the speed upgrade to smelt that down nice and quick. That is very fast. Once we have a decent amount of netherite scrap, 32 I think is more than enough here, we can then go ahead and craft up the netherite ingots, and by more than enough, I mean exactly the right amount. And then from there, we can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 magma creams, and that should be everything for 1 and 2 netherite furnaces. And so now, all we need to do is get the stained glass. So for that, we're going to need quite a bit of glass, but that should be pretty doable. Oh, I thought we'd have poppies and dandelions. It looks like we don't. That should be fine. Blue glass we can make because we can make blue dye from lapis. So that is doable. We'll drop that back into the system. Green dye is also potentially doable because we do have cactus as well. Again, for the time being, we can go ahead and put down one of these netherite furnaces to help us with smelting. And you'll see already that is very fast. I don't know if it tells us quite how fast it is, but it's real quick, especially with the speed augment there. There is cactus paste, which I think you can then craft into green dye. You totally can. And again, I do it every time, chat. I go to make a dye and then I end up just coloring my my crafting grid, which was not what I intended to do, but I guess for the remainder of today's stream, we're going to have a green crafting grid there. Purple is just blue and red, so we're going to have to go and get some poppies for that to happen. Magenta is made with purple and pink. Pink is white and red, so again, that's just more poppies required for that one. That's the only thing holding us back there. Yellow is dandelion, red is poppies, and then orange is yellow and red. And so I think at this point, all we really need to do is get some bone meal and bone meal some grass. Unfortunately, I do believe that as of right now, we actually have maybe 1 piece of grass over here. We've got 3 pieces of grass, which is not ideal. In fact, I think I'll take a quick detour here and go and make some more grass blocks, just because I think it's going to take a long time for us to get the dye required with just using 3 blocks of grass. Alright, so a little bit of bone mealing and grass breaking later. We do now have 4 poppies and 6 dandelions, which I think should be more than enough here. In fact, we don't even have to go back up to our crafting grid, which is something I am going to have to get used to doing. We now have the wireless crafting grid, so in here, we should be able to make 1 red dye for the red glass, 1 red dye for the orange glass, and then at least 1 red dye for the purple glass. We also then need 1 dandelion for the yellow, 1 dandelion for the orange, and I think that's that basically. So here, let's go for the rainbow furnace. We need the rainbow core. Orange glass we can make with orange dye, which we should now be able to do. Good stuff. Following that, the yellow dye, we can turn into yellow stained glass. Then for the purple dye, we need to mix red and blue, like so. We can then make the purple glass. And then the trickiest one, that also shouldn't be too difficult, is the magenta dye, which is purple and pink. We do need pink for that, which means we need white, which we can do like this. And then back in here, we can make pink. We can then use that pink to make magenta. And then we can use that magenta to make magenta glass. And then from there, we can make the core. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is going to be up in our other crafting grid. And also, in this case on the floor. It looks like I didn't make the red glass there. That's fine. We do still have one more poppy left. Let's do this and this. Again, for some reason, once you put a furnace down, it doesn't like to shift click in. That's completely fine. There is our rainbow core, and boom, there is our rainbow furnace. Look at this. So if I am not mistaken, this is very fast. In fact, we probably don't even need the speed augment. We could probably add that, but I don't think it's necessary. If we take 16 basic processors, put them in, boom, it does all 16 at once. You know what? Let's put the speed augment in. Boom. Boom. It is super fast. And I think it does up to a stack at once. So if we were to take, do you have any oak? We do. We got 464. If I take a stack of oak and I put that in, boom, it smelts a stack of items at a time, and it does it incredibly quickly. And so my plan here is to hopefully use this for our auto crafting with refined storage, so that if we ever need something smelting, we can teach the refined storage system how to use the rainbow furnace to smelt things incredibly quickly. So detour aside, back over here, the pattern grid should now be fairly doable, actually. We do need to make some construction cores, which are basic processes with glowstone. We'll make a few of those. And then we also need at least one destruction core. Again, that's the same, but with nether quartz here. And again, we'll make a few of those. That should get us the grid just as soon as we make a machine casing, which of course requires yet more quartz-enriched iron. Thankfully, we do have quite a bit of iron, and thanks to our compact machine setup, we have quite a bit of nether quartz as well. I do want to start importing that. Again, that's something we can do in today's stream with refined storage. So boom, machine casing, and boom, we get a grid. Once we have a grid, we can then use that to make the pattern grid just as soon as we make a pattern, which is 3 redstone, 3 glass, and 3 quartz-enriched iron. Boom, and boom, the pattern grid is acquired. For now, we'll go ahead and put that down right about here. The pattern grid is very similar in looks to the crafting grid, but this is not actually for crafting. This is for encoding patterns and teaching the system how to craft certain items. Now, in order to actually do those crafts, it is going to require a crafter. So before we start with any of this, we'll actually go ahead and make our first crafter here. In fact, I think we do get as a reward some patterns. We do, 64, fantastic. The crafter is 4 quartz-enriched iron with another combination of cores and processes. All of that seems fairly doable. Good stuff. And for now, we can put this down maybe right about here, although we probably will end up moving that in the near future. These link cables, of course, no longer required because we no longer have that simple storage network. So basically, also we'll move this as well. I'll put this, I'll probably put it over here, actually. We'll probably end up moving this engineer's workbench. For now, I'll put this down like over here, potentially. And we'll put the rainbow furnace down like this. So basically, the way that this works is we can take our patterns and we can place them into the pattern grid. And now, if we want to teach our system how to craft something, all we have to do is put that recipe into this pattern grid. For example, if we wanted to teach our system a very simple recipe, that being how to turn oak logs into oak planks, we could simply put an oak log anywhere in this grid, and that tells the system the recipe, 1 oak log equals 4 oak planks. You then click the create button over here to encode that recipe, and then from there, we can put that into the crafter, like so, and that's it. Now, the refined storage system knows how to craft oak planks. So now if we open up our crafting grid and we type in oak planks, we have 24. If we take those out, you'll see that it says craft, and if we click on craft, we now have the option of telling the system that we want it to craft a certain number of oak planks. We could say 10. If we click start, it will tell us that in order to craft 12 oak planks, it needs 3 oak logs. It's crafting 12, not 10, because it has to do it in batches of 4. If we click start, boom, it makes 12 oak planks. Nice. Super simple stuff. So we could do that with any recipe. If we wanted to, we could come over here. We could go to crafter. We could teach our crafter how to make crafters in code. We could teach, in order for that to work, you do have to teach it the sub-recipes. So if I just tried to request a crafter now, it would tell me that it doesn't have all of the parts, or in this case, it's just missing the one thing. But if we didn't have any quartz-enriched iron, it wouldn't make the quartz-enriched iron because it doesn't know how to make the quartz-enriched iron. So we are going to have to teach it a few other things here, like how to make quartz-enriched iron in code, how to make the machine casings in code. We also need to teach it how to make the processes and the cores. So the cores themselves are pretty easy to do. The processes, though, get a little trickier because the processes require smelting. So for those, we have to go with a different tactic. And in order to do that, we have to get yet another crafter. Thankfully, we can just request this one because we have all of these processes already. Good stuff. But in order to teach our system how to smelt, we have to put the crafter down above the furnace. So if I shift click onto there, it never works, but we can take the wrench and we can rotate that to face downwards, like so. We then do need to make sure that that is connected to our refined storage system. Now, I do believe that we have a cable around here somewhere. I'm fairly certain there's a cable like just under here. There is. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's necessarily a clean way of getting this connected because this wall is not double thick. Although I guess temporarily we could maybe just do something like that to get it connected. At least that way it doesn't look too bad from this side of the wall, even though it does look particularly bad from this side. We can always rectify that in the future. So now what we can do is we can teach our system recipes that involve smelting. Let's say we wanted to teach our system how to smelt the raw basic processor. You can shift click this in. You'll see it changes here. It ticks the processing box. By default, this is not ticked. If you tick the processing box, you're basically telling the pattern that this is a recipe for a machine and not just the regular crafting recipe. Chat does make a good point here, one that I'd completely forgotten about. And that is that we can put the crafter here on the bottom of the rainbow furnace. Normally, that's not something you can do with a regular Minecraft furnace because regular Minecraft furnaces have to receive their inputs, like the thing they're going to smelt, from the top. However, the rainbow furnace here is different in that the rainbow furnace has this configuration on the left-hand side that lets us change the inputs and outputs, which is super useful. So if we take this and we move that to here, we can then put the crafter underneath the rainbow furnace. Again, we do want to make sure that the top of the crafter, which is this side, is pointing up like that. We can then go ahead and get rid of this here and connect up the crafter from the bottom, which is nicely hidden. And then at that point, we can replace down these bricks here, and it once again looks nice from all sides, which is fantastic. All we have to do is remember to turn the bottom here to input, which is blue, and then we can decide on where the output's going to be in a second, because for the output, I'm fairly certain that we're going to have to get an importer, because there needs to be a way for the item to get back into the system. Basically, right now, if we were to teach our system how to make something that requires smelting, so again, if we go back to the basic processor here, if we teach it this recipe in code, we can then put that pattern in over here, and we're basically telling the refined storage system that if you send a raw basic processor to this block adjacent to this crafter, you will get back a basic processor. Now, in order for this to work, we are also going to have to teach our system how to make the raw basic processor. So we'll encode that and we'll place that in our regular crafter, which is already getting uncomfortably low on slots, but thankfully we can rectify that in a second here. This also adds a whole new can of worms as well, because in order to teach it to make the raw basic processor, we have to teach it how to make processor binding, and on top of that, we also have to teach it how to make silicon. Silicon is another one of those things that's made in a furnace, so we can encode that and place that over here. But now, if we were to request some silicon, let's say we requested just the one for now and start, it will send the nether quartz over. Assuming we have fuel in the furnace, it will then make the silicon. But now the silicon needs to be pulled back into the system, and that is where I believe we're going to need an importer of some description. There are a few ways you could do this. One way that is usually recommended to me, that is actually a pretty good method that I might even use here, is to use one centralized importer with a network of ender chests. The idea is that we can take one of these ender chests, and again, we will, right now we're not using any colored frequencies on this. So right now we have this ender chest here. This ender chest is set to white, white, white. So that's kind of the frequency of this ender chest. And that links to the ender chest in our compact machine. What we want to do here is, let's say we get some blue dye, because it's the easiest for us to make. We could put down an ender chest. I'm going to put it on top of this because we're going to get rid of that trash can, and you'll see why in a second. But let's put down the ender chest here, like that. And let's set this to blue, blue, blue. So just shift right click onto the ender chest, and that will set the frequency. This one is now set to blue, blue, blue. As per usual, I'm also going to shift right click a diamond on it to make sure that only I can access it. Even if somebody else on the server uses blue, 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 they won't get access to this ender chest. And then in here, what we're going to do is we're going to set the top to output. We're going to turn auto output on, so to true, by clicking this button. That should then... Okay, that was super weird. The auto output button, I don't know if that's a bug or not, But for me, I couldn't toggle the auto output to on until I toggled auto input to on. And now I can't toggle it off either, like it's just always on. I can toggle this one on and off, but here this doesn't change, which is odd. But either way, auto output is on. So if you can turn auto output to true, then that's going to automatically push anything that is made up into the ender chest. And then what we can do from there is we can take an ender chest. Let's temporarily, I'm going to move some of this tinker stuff. We'll find a new home for this momentarily. But if we put down the other ender chest, let's say right about here, we can then do the same thing. We can set this to blue, blue, blue. We can right-click a diamond on it, like so. And then we can put the importer onto this ender chest. The idea here is that now in the future, if we wanted to autocraft with a different machine, instead of having to make another importer, we'd only have to make another ender chest. We can just use this one importer to import all of our things. And if we need to import faster, we can put upgrades into this importer as opposed to having to upgrade multiple importers later on down the line. But either way, this system should now work. So now if we once again go in here and request some silicon, by the way, if you already have items in your system, you can take them out and then click craft. If you already have items though, you can control click? No, yeah. You can control shift click. So you want to hold down control, hold down shift, and then left click. And that will bring up this menu here, at which point we could request a stack, start, and start. That's going to send a stack of nether quartz over to the furnace, and that's going to smelt them up and put them in here. Now you'll notice a problem. The problem here is that the crafter is not sending the nether quartz fast enough to the rainbow furnace, and because of that, the rainbow furnace is not smelting the nether quartz particularly quickly, despite the fact that it can do a stack at a time. Now I think we can rectify that by making this crafter here faster. There are kind of two ways we can do this. Refined storage does add speed upgrades. And by the way, the regular crafter is from refined storage. However, I'll bookmark the speed upgrade. There are other crafters added by the extra storage mod. So this is an add-on mod for refined storage that adds the iron crafter, the gold crafter, the diamond crafter, and the netherite crafter. And if I hold shift here, you'll see the iron crafter, much like the regular crafter, has a base speed of 1. But then the higher tiers of crafters have higher base speeds. So gold is 5x, diamond is 25x, and then netherite is 125 times faster than the base crafter. So it's super fast. But what we can do over here is we can make speed upgrades. There are also stack upgrades. I don't know. I would assume you can, but I actually don't know if you can put a stack upgrade into a crafter. Normally, you'd use a stack upgrade for something like an importer or an exporter to export or import stacks at a time. I'm being told by the chat that you can't put stack upgrades into crafters. I didn't think you could. Yeah, okay, you can't. That's fine. We can, though, put speed upgrades in. So the speed upgrades are fairly easy to make. You can put up to 4 in a crafter. We'll go ahead and make 4 here because we've got the sugar and we've got the quartz enriched iron for it. So if we take 4 of these, over here, this craft is done, by the way. We have over a stack of silicon. We do still have a ton of nether quartz, so it's not really a huge deal here. If we put those speed upgrades in like so, and we once again request another stack of silicon, start and start, we should see now that the crafter sent the nether quartz significantly faster, and that in turn allowed us to get a stack of silicon much, much quicker. So now that that's taken care of, how close are we in terms of being able to teach our system how to make crafters? I think we have almost everything. We just need to teach it, I think, how to smelt up and how to craft the other processes, the other raw processes, that is. Those being the raw improved processor in code, the raw advanced processor in code. We can drop both of those in over here. Now we are out of space here, and I think it's probably therefore about time that we look at investing in one of the higher tier crafters. So the iron crafter is super easy to make. It's just our regular crafter with 4 iron and a chest. I'm going to go ahead and pick this crafter up just because I see no need to make a fresh one here. So boom, there's an iron crafter already. The iron crafter triples the amount of space that we have available to us. Also, I should be claiming these rewards here because we do get some pretty cool stuff, including 56. That's a high roll there. We had a chance to get between 1 and 64. So we did kind of high roll on the basic processes, which I'm very happy with. I do believe, though, that we can take this at least one step further because we should have, I think, everything it takes to make the gold crafter. Now, this does require these neural processes, and these are made with raw improved, raw advanced, nether quartz, crafting tables, obsidian, processor binding. This seems very doable. Again, ideally, going forward, this is something that we would teach our system how to make. In fact, let's go ahead and drop this down. Let's put like all of these back in. And I think I am going to teach my system how to make those real quick. So over here, if we go ahead and encode this, we can drop that in over here. We can then teach it how to make crafting tables, because that's something that it doesn't quite know how to make yet. Now, this is where you can run into a problem. If I was to encode this recipe and put it in my crafter, the refined storage system would only be able to craft dark oak planks into crafting tables. So right now, we do have some dark oak planks, but as soon as those disappear, it's not going to use my regular oak planks because we have the exact box ticked. If we untick exact, that's going to allow the refined storage system to use any oak planks to make the crafting table, and the system will even go as far as to automatically craft oak logs into oak planks if we don't have enough to make crafting tables. So that's definitely something to bear in mind there. We'll drop that in. So now, if I were to go ahead and request 2 of those raw neural processors and start, look at that. Boom. We can then drop those in over here. Of course, if we wanted to, we could even teach our system how to do that as well. Back over here, we should now be able to make a gold crafter. Of course, again, we do need the iron crafter from here, so we'll once again pick this up. Drop that in, and boom, we now have even more slots. And also, this is the first one that's faster. In the top left there, this is 5 times faster than the base crafter. If we wanted to go a step further, I think we totally could, actually. We've got 14,000 diamonds, so once again, if we request some more of those neural processors, this time I see no reason not to go one step further and teach our system how to actually smelt the final product as well. We can then come over here. We can request 2 neural processors, start and start. And boom, we have them. At which point, I think we have basically everything to upgrade to the diamond crafter. We just need to craft 4 diamond blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course, as per usual, we need to pick up the actual crafter itself here. And boom. And then if we wanted to go to the final tier here, it's actually not too bad. Again, it's 2 more neural processors, which we have now taught our system how to make. We can request both of those. Although again, now we do have to put the crafter down, put all of the recipes back inside of it, and then request those neural processors. And then we also need 4 blocks of netherite. So we're going to need 36 netherite ingots, which is like 144 netherite scraps, I want to say. Again, thankfully, we do have our rainbow furnace here. And so if we go ahead and take 1, we might just have enough, actually. We can do 1 stack, 2 stacks, and like a half. That should give us quite a lot of netherite scraps. Again, here you'll see the limiting factor is our importer. If we wanted to, we could take some of these speed upgrades, or even make more speed upgrades, and put those in the importer as well to make this faster. The importer, as well, unlike the crafter, can take a stack upgrade. The stack upgrade allows it to pull in stacks at a time as opposed to pulling in individual items. Did we teach our system how to make quartz enriched iron? We did. Let's go ahead and request a stack of that. So now we've run into a new problem, and that problem is that our disk drives are full. So real quick, we can do the rest of this crafting here, I think, manually. Our system is very full. If we do something like this, and we take our netherite scraps, and we do this, once we've got 36 of those, we can then craft up the 4 blocks. Boom. The neural processors are done, and then we can pick all this up. Again, our system, our inventory this time is real full. Let's go ahead and pick this up. And I think that's pretty much everything. Boom, we have the highest tier crafter. This has 81 storage slots, and it's 125 times faster. This should be able to perform a ton of craft super quickly. Now, we are running out of storage space. That is fine, because now, if we wanted to make some higher tier storage disks, we can just teach our system how to make them, right? So starting out with the 1K storage part, we can encode that. And again, as I mentioned earlier in the stream, one of the challenges here is to make an infinite storage part, which is basically like a creative item that gives you an infinite amount of space in your refined storage disk drive here. We are going to have to make this at some point, and so we are going to have to encode these recipes at some point anyway. Might as well do it now. We'll do, or at least a few of these now. We won't do all of them now, of course. We'll probably go maybe up to 64K. This one here. We can encode the 64K storage part, and then if we wanted to, we could also encode the actual 64K storage disk, like so. If we drop all of those into here, we should then be able to request a 64K storage disk. It's missing 3 improved processors. That is fine. It does know how to make the raw improved processor. Right now, it just doesn't know how to actually smelt the raw processors into actual processors. So we'll encode both of those recipes, drop those in over here. Before I forget, I'm also going to quickly teach the system how to encode patterns, make a pattern for patterns, and then drop that in here. So now if we need more patterns in the future, we can just request them. We don't have to manually make them. And so let's try that once again. If I wanted one 64K storage disk, start and start. Because of how fast the crafter is, this really shouldn't take too long whatsoever, and boom, look at that. We have a 64K storage disk that we can put in here to take our current capacity from 3,000 all the way up to 67,000. Chat is right. I am a little bit of a fool here in that you do actually get some rewards here. We didn't need to craft those, but it's good to teach our system anyway because we are going to need more in the future. We also get explosive powder and a primitive resonator. Increases crafting speed by 1.25x. Still not entirely sure how we use those, but I should really look into it because the explosive powder seems particularly interesting. There are a few quests over here that we've kind of technically done, like the 4K storage part, the 16K storage part, and the 64K storage part. What we can do here is we can request those manually. We don't actually have to be the ones to craft them. All we have to do is have the item in our inventory. So we can start with the 4K storage part. Once we have that quest complete, we can put it back in the system. That's going to allow the system to use that storage part to make the 16K storage part. Once that's done, we can do the same thing again. We can pull that out and request a 64K storage part. And then once that's done, that'll be the same thing again. We'll have another quest complete. These also do give us more things. We get a Silk Touch upgrade. Not quite sure what that's going to be used for. Binding upgrade. I guess you could maybe use this on a Destructor potentially. And then we also get a Detector as well, which will be useful, I think, later on in the series. Now, one thing that we don't have just yet, but that might be quite useful, is a crafting monitor. This guy here. The crafting monitor is pretty nifty in that it's going to allow us to see what's currently happening. Because right now, our 64K storage part is being made, but we don't quite know what it is that's kind of holding things up. It's obvious over here what's holding things up, and that's that the raw basic processor is not being smelted. So there is something we can do here. First of all, we can obviously just put our coal in like this. But secondarily, what we should do is we should make an exporter. Now, you'll notice when we hover over the button here that some items are red and some are blue. As it says in the tooltip, the red items are items that we're missing, and the blue items are items that if we hold down control will be requested. So if I click control and then left click, it's going to take me straight to the crafting request, at which point I can click start, and that's going to automatically request a construction core whilst we work on making this. Now, again, we're going to need quite a few, I think, importers and exporters, so it's probably worthwhile teaching our system how to make these. For now, we'll just do it manually, and hopefully this construction core shouldn't take too long to come through here, at which point we can take our exporter, and we can put that down, for now, like this, with a connection like that. And what we want to do is we want to tell our system to export coal into the coal slot, which is on the right-hand side, so purple is fine. We can turn all of these off. These don't need to do anything. We want to input from the bottom, output to the top, and take in fuel from the right. And so now, our refined storage system should continually keep this rainbow furnace filled with fuel. Although, chat does make a good point. I completely forgot about the fact that the Iron Furnaces mod does have a better way of doing this. We can utilize this guy, the wireless heat transmitter and the wireless heat receiver. These are super nifty. This wasn't really a waste. We'll definitely use this exporter in the future. But there is a problem right now in that potentially we could run out of coal, right? And therefore not be able to use our rainbow furnace. Seems unlikely in that we have 50,000 coal, but there is a better option, and that better option is the wireless heat transmitter. So this is super easy for us to make. We're missing 1 block of redstone and 1 regular furnace. Boom. We also need, I think, at least 1 wireless heat transmitter, although I'm fairly certain just the 1 should do it here. The idea behind this is that you can utilize the wireless heat transmitter to power your furnaces wirelessly using redstone flux. So over here, if I were to try not to die to the wires. We should take all those wires down, by the way. We don't need those up anymore. But if I were to change the side of this to be an output, put down the wireless heat transmitter, that's going to start charging up, as you can see in the top left there, and in here. And then from there, what I believe we do is we put this in. That's going to bind the wireless heat receiver to this wireless heat transmitter. And so now, if I take that and place it in the fuel slot over here, and we can turn this off, this should now use the redstone flux and the power that's being generated in our diesel generator from our infinite diesel, and then being sent wirelessly over to the furnace to smelt things. So once again, if I take like a stack of nether quartz and we drop that in like so, you'll see it's going to use the wireless heat receiver to power it. So we don't even need coal going forward. We can just use the diesel generator, which is already infinite power, which is super useful. So we don't even have to waste our coal for that either, which is fantastic. Now that we've fixed that, our 64K part is done. We can take that out and put it back in. Now that we've made it, we might as well go ahead and just request another 64K storage disk, because we've already made the part, which is the hardest bit, and then we can drop that in for even more storage for us to use. We've completed almost all of these quests here. Let's go ahead and just claim basically everything here, and we'll drop those into the system. I'm not too sure about this quest down here. This one says never craft it manually again. The challenge says whenever you need to craft something, make a pattern for it, automate every crafting recipe you need to use. We're probably not going to complete that quest. That's a little absurd, I think, to automate everything and never, ever craft manually again. There's a lot of crafting recipes in the game. Definitely possible, but yeah, probably not something we're going to work on. It seems maybe a little bit tedious. Before we go, there is one more thing I would like to show you. Right now, we have our wireless crafting grid, but it's in our inventory, so it's not being charged. As you saw, we can put it in over here, and if we put it in over here, it does get charged because of our wireless charging. The problem now is that we can't shift right click it to actually use it. There is a workaround. If you go to options controls and type in wireless, this one at the bottom here, open wireless crafting grid, is by default set to control plus G. You can leave it like that if you want. I like to change mine to Z. Z is currently taken, so I'll go ahead and look that up. Again, if you type in the key and then click key, it shows you the keys, just in case some people didn't know that. And then you can just click escape to clear a key. So you click on it and then press escape, it gets rid of it. And yeah, we can also get rid of these as well, just in case. Now that there's no conflicts, if we go back out and press Z, that's going to open up our wireless crafting grid. So even though it's not in our inventory, it's not even on our hotbar, it's over in this slot over here, kind of attached to our head. Wherever we are in the base, we can just hit Z on the keyboard, and it opens up the crafting grid for us to use. So we don't have to keep coming back over to here over and over and over again every time that we want to do something. Real quick, I'm going to change that back. I'm not a huge fan of the dark green now. I don't think it looks particularly good. What I would like to do before we go is I would like to make yet another importer. And I'm going to go ahead and teach our system how to make both importers and exporters. So we'll encode the importer and we will encode the exporter. Both of these do require simple storage network cables. So I'm going to teach you how to make both of those as well. The network cable itself should be super easy, but that is also going to require that we teach it how to make stone slabs. Again, not a particularly difficult recipe. And also how to teach it how to make pistons. Everything else it already knows how to do. It already knows how to make the oak planks. I do believe it's a different cable for the importer. It is. We need to teach it the filtered import cable. And of course, for that, we also have to teach it how to make the wooden barrel, which in turn means that we also have to teach it how to make slabs. Again, because we don't have exact ticked, it should be fine that there are warped slabs there. Any slab should do the trick. Let's just go ahead and do something like this and encode. And then if we dump all of these into here, like that, we should now be able to request an importer. Start and start. And as soon as that is done, the idea now is that we can put that importer directly onto the ender chest here, so that going forward, any of these items that are generated by our basalt generator in the nether can be instantly pulled into the refined storage system. Now that we've gotten rid of that trash can, what we can do here is, if we put an importer down, what we want to do is we want to make sure we have a storage drawer for each one of these items, and we also want to make sure that those corresponding drawers all have void upgrades on them, because those void upgrades are going to allow us to delete any excess automatically without the use of a trash can. So we get, what do we get? We get cobalt, we get blackstone, we get basalt, we get netherrack, we get nether quartz, and we get gold nuggets. I think we need, oh, and also we get ancient debris. It's unlikely that we get so much ancient debris that it becomes a problem, but we need 7 storage drawers associated with those. Most of these might, I say most, some of these might already have a storage drawer associated with them, like gold definitely does. Cobalt almost certainly doesn't. Nether quartz also does. Let's go ahead and quickly craft up some void upgrades if we have what it takes. We totally do. So we'll put a void upgrade on here. Oh, it already has one. Perfect. Gold doesn't, but we'll put one on there as well, just in case. Over here, we do have Netherrack, and that already has a void upgrade on it, which is perfect. Then, in terms of basalt, oh, we do. I made a draw between streams. We've got blackstone and basalt here. We'll put a void upgrade on there. Perfect. And then, other than that, I think it's really just cobalt. Now, cobalt doesn't have a draw currently. I think what I might do, though, is I think I might go ahead and maybe, like, take out these zombie and creeper heads, zombie and skeleton heads. And while I'm at it, I might as well take the creeper heads out as well. I think we're unlikely to get more of those anytime soon. Definitely not, up to like the manner of hundreds where we would need a draw slot for them. And I think instead what we'll do is we'll put in the ancient debris like here. We're gonna put the cobalt next to it there. And I think that's basically everything. That needs a drawer of its own. So then we can go ahead and unlock both of those again. Like so, upgrade both of those with void upgrades, if they don't have them already. And then if we drop our importer directly onto here, we can connect that up with some cable. I'm going to turn on auto select as well to make sure that auto selects when I open it up, like so. And yeah, going forward, anything that is generated should be instantly pulled into the system. And if we ever get too much of any one given thing, which we probably already have done with things like basalt and netherrack, then the excess are just going to be deleted. So between streams, I'll go ahead and move all the stuff out of this chest kind of manually over with the draw controller. We could, if we wanted to, put speed or stack upgrades in here, although I don't think they're going to be necessary. It looks like the things are coming in slow enough to where the importer on its own is pulling out faster than new things are being generated. So once this backlog is cleared, I think we should be fine. And we'll even, I think, clear through the backlog as well. So that all seems perfectly well and good, which is fantastic. We should get a lot of gold going forward that way. Next time, we'll come back, and I think we'll start working towards trying to get to the end. We'll see if we can't get the crusher, the electrodes, the arc furnace, and an end portal up and running. Potentially even go through and fight the end dragon as well. And then, yeah, we can look at also getting into the Twilight Forest. If we do manage to finally defeat the Twilight Forest, we are going to unlock FTB Ultimine, so we'll finally be able to vein mine things. And then we can, of course, start looking at the final chapter here as well. Some of these are not too difficult. Some of these are, I think, going to be quite difficult, but that's kind of par for the course with modded Minecraft. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's stream there.